Tsunoda ist inzwischen ein richtiges Muskelpaket. And them two stopping in China was like going onto the dance floor at a wedding and thinking that everybody's going to join you. Starting to do your moves.
Hi everybody, welcome to the F1 show brought to you by Audi, whereby we'll be looking ahead to the Japanese Grand Prix. It is wonderful to see them in person, having been, obviously if you're watching on YouTube you'll be able to see them, but if you're listening on Spotify you won't be able to see them, but in person, Ted Kravtiz and Bernie Collins. Bernie's just come back from skiing. How was it?
It was good. There was some whiteout days, there was some very sunny days. I've got a slightly burnt nose, so always wear your sun cream, kids. But yeah, it was lovely. 3 full days of skiing, no injuries.
Nice.
Sure.
Sure.
Nothing bar related?
Nothing. Oh, I've got a bruise on the back of my knee because some of the chairlifts pick you up with such force that the back of my knee has been bruised. But aside from that, no bar related, no actual ski related injuries.
That's good to know. Ted?
Over-aggressive chairlifts.
Over-aggressive.
Yeah.
I'm very well, thank you, Simon. How are you?
Not bad.
We
Not
are
bad.
on our way to Heathrow. We should be clear about this. It is the 1st of April in the morning, and such is the way the world turns, is that we've got to get on with it, because otherwise it will be Thursday in Japan.
By the time this goes out.
Time differences. No, by the time we fly. So if we fly Tuesday afternoon, we don't get there till Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And then press conferences start at 10 a.m. on Thursday. So we've got to get on with it.
I've only got 45 minutes between landing in Doha and getting on my next trip to Osaka. And knowing me, and my track record at airports, that could end terribly.
Although there is a very good thing about, sorry, Bernie, God bless Doha Airport.
Yeah.
Because if you're transiting, was this about what you're about to say?
No, go on.
So that they don't make you go through additional security, trusting as they do in Heathrow security. So if they say, if you just got off the plane from Heathrow, they say, you're okay, you've been through security, you've been on an aluminium tube, you obviously couldn't have picked anything up that you shouldn't have up to then.
No.
Then you can go straight out of the gate and then to your next one. So I have faith that you will make your 45-minute connection.
So I have faith that you'll make it. The question mark always is, will your bag make it?
Yeah.
And if your bag doesn't make it, I am looking forward to seeing you at the track on Thursday in some bought Japanese gear.
That was Brazil. Was that Brazil? It was
In that
Brazil
cardigan.
last year. Oh, God, yeah, a bit of a nightmare. Right, big news, obviously, and that is that from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix onwards, Lewis Hamilton is going to be joining Kick Sauber. What do you think of that?
That's not what I was expecting.
No, it's 1st of April, though, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the worst one.
Gee, and it's a pretty bad one, but for a second, I reckon someone out there on Tinternet might have believed that. Probably get picked up as clickbait.
I like the Sauber Wagyu beef special edition livery. In a hilarious Sauber joke, they've done we are having this weekend or a special Wagyu beef livery because of a play on their sponsor, which I'm not going to name because that's what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good one, Kick Sauber.
Good one, Kick Sauber.
They
Great.
are the meisters.
And a very good April Fool's joke from new sponsor and official timekeeper of Formula One, Tag Heuer, who've brought out a special £121,000 watch, 155,000 Swiss francs. Monaco split seconds chronograph F1 R with an X on it, which I think is how you know that it's a April Fool's joke, and emblazoned with the famous motif of "Lights out and away we go" motif on the two.
I reckon he'll believe that already. Crofto.
Well, I assume he's in on the joke.
He can't be.
He must be. So on the two chronograph thing, I'm doing again with the cutaways.
Because you zoomed inside.
I did this on the last one.
Can you zoom into his? Because he's doing one of his things.
I'll angle it down so you don't get reflection. Here you go, Simon.
Yeah.
On the two chronographs, lights out, and away we go. And I think that's not the joke. I think the joke is that it's £130,000. I think that's the joke. Tag Heuer
And he's trademarked it as well. So if...
Well, it's only words. You can't trademark words.
Well, I think he has. He's tried to do that. That's what he told me.
Let me just check the exchange rate. You carry on. I'll check whether 155,000 Swiss francs.
I'm pretty sure I can't afford it anyway.
No.
either way.
Buy a couple of houses for
And
that.
I don't want the light side away we go on my watch.
But actually, there is a new Red Bull livery this weekend
Yes.
to represent the land of the rising sun.
That's not a joke.
Red and white symbolises good fortune. Alas, not for Liam Lawson, who has, I mean, yes, for Yuki Tsunoda, but let's get straight into it because it has been the talk of the paddock since China. You just feel really sorry for the guy. 11 races last year, he did the pre-season and 2 this year, and he has been jettisoned, the latest to be chewed up and spat out by the Red Bull Young Driver project. What did you make of the decision to do that, Bernie?
Well, yeah. So I want to pick on one thing first, a little comedy bit. So the fact that they're running a white Red Bull, Crofty's going to hate that, isn't it? Because it's going to look so similar to
It's not because he's going to like it, because it harks back to the Richard Ginther 19...
But it's going to be hard to tell on track commentary the difference, isn't it?
Between that and the Toro Rosso?
Yeah.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be a bone of contention in the commentary box. I can see that.
He complained of it.
I could see that kicking off more than once. But anyway, on the Lawson thing, like 2 races sounds harsh. I wonder if some of it's because we're going into a triple header, so it's either 2 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, he was on our flight back from China, or my flight back from China, and wow, he just looked so down.
Yeah.
He looked a bit sad. We obviously heard the rumours coming out of China that it was going to happen. I sort of thought, give him more time than that. This weekend's qualifying is going to be one to get up for. I'm going to be here in the UK. I'm going to get up for it because I want to see out of the 4, you know, across the 2 Red Bulls, across the 2 RBs, where the qualifying pans out. Because if Liam now out-qualifies Tsunoda in a Red Bull, that's going to be a big talking point.
Well, I mean, there's so many talking points. It's a very many-layered story, this, isn't it? So we're starting with the drivers, if we could, and let's continue with Liam because, I think it's also been I think he's been kind of unfairly treated a little bit with all of this. You know, there's a few people saying bit too cocky, bit too arrogant coming in. Is that fair? I mean, surely you're coming in, you're going to be fighting against the best driver on the grid. You've got one of 2 ways. You can come in meekly or you can come in and say, right, I'm going to be positive. The problem is that if it all goes belly up, as it has for him, then you're left with egg on your face.
I mean, 2 things for me. First of all, in Rachel's interview in China, when she said, do you have to give it time? And he said, well, I don't have time. How true that turned out to be. We thought he meant, you know, I've got until Imola or something, or Miami to prove myself. It turned out it was a lot shorter time than that. And the other thing is, I mean, Liam, you know, he came in last year and said, I'm not in Formula One. Didn't he say on Drive to Survive, I'm not here to make friends? Or he said it to us, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And that always sets you up for people thinking, oh, well, you know. But that is, in a sense, what he got him the Red Bull drive, because they saw an emotional and a fortitude there that would stand up well to the demands of being in that high-pressure environment, which clearly hasn't worked. And I just think this last line from Christian Horner in the Red Bull press release, Simon, have you got it? Did they send it to you?
No, it's not in front of me. No, go on.
Okay. Were you on their list?
Yeah, I'm on their list.
Are you on their list?
Believe it or not. I'm surprised you're on their list, but there we are.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I am. I've got it here. Christian Horner, team principal CEO. It's been difficult to see Liam struggle at the RB21, at the first 2 races. We've just collectively taken the decision. So that's with Helmut Marko and Oliver Mintzlaff.
Yeah.
So apparently they had a board meeting in Dubai.
Yeah.
What's this board meeting in there they have? Was it while they were changing planes? Clearly, Helmut Marko and Christian Horner didn't have a 45-minute connection in Dubai airport.
Okay.
Because they were seen getting on the Emirates flight on Sunday night in Shanghai. Did they have an extended
There were 2
layover?
meetings, weren't there? Wasn't there a meeting in Dubai and a meeting in Milton Keynes?
Was there?
Apparently.
I heard there was a board meeting in Dubai with presumably a long layover.
Okay.
We've done to try and reclaim the World Constructors title. So this is a sporting decision. We acknowledge there's a lot to go, but we have a duty of care to protect and develop Liam together. And after such a difficult start, it makes sense to act quickly so Liam can gain experience as he continues his F1 career with racing bulls and an environment and a team he knows very well. So what's happened that because Christian's never quoted having a duty of care to Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, Jaime Alguersuari, Daniel Ricciardo, all the others, but he's used that phrase that we have a duty of care. Has it affected Liam worse than we imagine, despite his "I'm not here to make friends, I'm a tough cookie"?
Yeah, I think there's been quite a lot of retrospective quote fitting and amending of what our thoughts were to start with, just to fit actually the narrative of what's going on now, if you know what I mean. No, I think I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying.
Liam's really feeling it,
Well, yeah,
and he's thinking, I can't carry on with this.
Yeah, I
He
mean
did look
that.
really down on the flight from China.
He
Like
looked really down on
he
it?
did. Like, but I feel like that duty of care, which all managers have to all employees, should have come a bit earlier. Really, like if you're putting someone in the car, why have they not had more track time in the Red Bull, which we know is very different to the RB? Why have they not had, some more input, some more drives, some more time, some more test days, some more whatever it is. We discussed it. A 2-year-old running a 2-year-old car like Kimi Antonelli did. Whatever driver they put in could have been in a much stronger position, because this, getting rid of Sergio Perez has been on the cards since the middle of last year. So they've had time.
Yeah. And my point on the retrofitting is that Yuki Tsunoda, they've always said that potentially the consistency is what's been holding him back, and that his fitness wasn't there. Well, that stretches back all the way to when, he's with Tost and they were getting together and working on their fitness, which is a long time back. And now all of a sudden, he's a bodybuilder and all this kind of stuff, and he's ready to race in this Red Bull. I think it's a U-turn. They've made a mistake. I think it's a combination of factors. He's completely lost his confidence. Yep. We all know that, and we'll get into the kind of capricious nature of this Red Bull, because that's what it is. It's got such a small operating window. We know that Max is driving around it at the moment and proving why he is the best driver in the world. I want to just stay focused, if we could, a little bit on the drivers to start with, because as I said, the layers are just, there's just so many. You peel back and it's like an onion, this, because it gets into the wider context of what's going on at Red Bull, the nature of the car, the technical deficiencies of the car. But for Lawson now, counterintuitively, does he have an opportunity to rebuild in a car and at a team that actually looks like an easier car to drive? And that's perhaps why they've done this, just to give him the boost that he needs, and perhaps an admission that Yuki should have been in there in the first place.
Well, yeah, so let's not worry too much about the Yuki bit, but if we just think of Lawson getting back into the RB, it's a car he's familiar with, Suzuka's a track he's familiar with. I don't know how much any of the engineering teams have moved around there, but there'll be people there that he's familiar with as well. So he should go into the Suzuka weekend confident. And if he can get a good weekend out in Japan, then that'll build for the next two after that. Whereas if he goes into Suzuka, has a poor weekend, gets beaten by Hajar or whatever, then maybe that downward spiral continues. So it's really difficult to predict how someone will respond. And it's like any of us, some of us respond well to that pressure. We've got lots of drivers that do that. Some people, being moved from Red Bull to RB wouldn't help their, downward spiral. It would make it even worse.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's going to react.
I mean, as Christian always says, they are all Red Bull drivers, aren't they? Verstappen, Lawson, Tsunoda and Hajar. They're all Red Bull drivers, and they decide which team to put them in. And so they can move them around. So it's luxury they've got to do that, and they're doing it to try and, what's the point now in saying, well, you were wrong, weren't you? You could be one of those people that go up to Helmut Marko and Christian Horner and say, well, when you decided to put Liam wrong, you were wrong, weren't you? Weren't you wrong? Would you like to say it? Say you're wrong. There's no point in saying that. No. I'm not that kind of person. Have you also had the missive from Dr. Marko, Simon?
Yeah.
Are you on his mailing list?
Yeah, I've put it down here. Yes.
Have you got
personal mailing list?
Have you got
me personally
about his writing in the Austrian publication Speed Week? Yes. Oh, you have got it. You are on his mailing list. Yeah. Right. Talking about Yuki Tsunoda, I'll tell you in the original German, because it's quite funny. He's talking about how Yuki is now better placed to be a Red Bull racing driver rather than just a Toro Rosso driver. And his physical that you talked about, the morning runs with Franz Tost. Tsunoda ist inzwischen ein richtiges Muskelpaket. So Yuki is now a muscle packet. So he is now. Do you want me to translate it?
Has that changed in the last two races?
Why Tsunoda So Tsunoda is now a real muscle package.
Yeah.
Is how the internet translates it. Und richtiges Muskelpaket.
I like that. It's my
Yuki
favourite
is a muscle packet. Now he has, got worked on his strength, but that's not the reason why they didn't sign him in the first place. The reason why they didn't sign him in the first place was because they didn't think that he was as well equipped as Lawson to cope with the demands and expectations from Red Bull Racing and handling the Verstappen developed car.
Yeah.
So we are going to find out, such as your onion with many layers, whether Tsunoda can handle, which he says he can in the simulator, the car developed for Verstappen.
Yeah.
And whether he has the mental strength and to cope with it if he doesn't get into Q3, or even if he goes out in Q1.
The thing with Yuki is that he does believe, you send them to me at Racing Bulls and I will destroy them.
I will beat them.
I will destroy them, or I have destroyed them. Versus Gasly, he didn't quite do that, 21-22. Let's just run through a few of the stats whilst we could. He was out-qualified in the 44 races they were together, 34-10 in the Grand Prix, 31-12, and outscored 133 points to 44. Against Nick de Vries, blew him away 8-2 with the points. Obviously, it was a terrible car in 23, 2-0. Versus Ricciardo, 16-9, he did him in qualifying. Points, he outscored him 37-18. Versus Lawson, 9-2 in qualifying. They're level in the GPs, but 8-6 in points. And then it's 3-zip, it was 3-zip against Isaac Hadjar this year, although Hadjar had shown real signs, but for the sixth place in the sprint, that would have been very tight between the pair of them.
That's what you get with a muscle packet.
That's what you get with a muscle packet. But with that, as you said, he's not had any pre-season. And actually, there's a question in. There's a guy that sent a question in. We should do the question from this guy here. I think it's a made-up name. Come on, Dr. Bingus Cheeseburger. Does Yuki feel angry that he was not given the opportunity for pre-season testing and 2 races to get to grips with the RB21? Thank you, Dr. Cheeseburger.
Of course, but you can't turn back time. Turn back time now. That was the decision.
He's not going to say, I'm not going to get in the Red Bull because I didn't do testing. It's tested in the whole season or nothing. And he's going to jump at the opportunity. So,
can I be quite cynical as well? Is there a fiscal reason for getting Yuki in ahead of the Suzuka?
We did.
Yeah,
the Honda support.
Yeah.
It was, so the story was that when they were considering Perez's replacement, that there was $10 million on the table from Honda to put a Honda supported driver with extra activation in there to get a Japanese driver, because it was worth it for Honda from a marketing point of view to get a Japanese driver, and there's money well spent. They decided to go with Lawson, so that money obviously was not forthcoming. This is the suggestion. We will firm it up when we get to Japan. And now they've said, do you know what? We are thinking of putting Yuki in. Might that 10 million be available? And to their credit, I think Honda have said, now you want it.
What do you think? I mean, obviously, you are embedded in the data from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed at night, Bernie. But what do you think about Yuki and what you've seen from the numbers, but also from his personality traits that make you think he might be able to cope better than Liam?
So, first of all, I'm unable to comment on Yuki's muscle packet.
Yeah.
But just listening to the radio comms, there's been big progression from when he started in F1 to now. You know, he's a lot calmer, a lot better feedback. We still get the little bursts of outrage, but he's not the real emotional guy. And I think that was one of the reasons that was holding Red Bull, was this big, strong, like this emotional guy who's just going to lash out and, you know, to finish. You need to finish the races to score any points. So I think he's a lot more reserved on the radio, which is one thing. His driving style is very, very hard to tell from outside of the car in terms of car setup, what aero balance he's running, all of those sorts of things. I'd like to think that someone at Red Bull, more intelligent than I, looks at their 4 drivers and looks at who's running the most forward aero balance, which is what we think the Red Bull ranks them in that order, and your top 2 should be your Red Bull drivers. I don't know that it should be much more complicated than that, but it clearly is. So we're going to find out on Yuki, aren't we? And I think it's a big risk in your home Grand Prix to drive a totally new car, isn't it? But he should, looking at the weather forecast, get 3 good practice sessions in. if they focus on the right things, and there's no reason that he can't do well.
But is the real question, what did they see in the data that they promised? Christian promised we're going to have a look at the data.
All the sensors in the car.
And what did they see in there that suggested that Lawson could not improve?
Yeah.
That's really interesting thing for me is did they think, look, his confidence is gone, you know, we got to help him on the emotional side, and we've looked through the data, or Liam has admitted, I can't get any more out of this car. And they thought, well, then we haven't got a choice, really. Was there something? Yeah. Would there have been something in the data? Could they have seen? Well, I think in just GPS data or whatever, this guy's not going to improve. Surely they couldn't.
China was one where they changed the setup dramatically between qualifying and race, didn't they? And took him to the back of the grid.
Started him in the pit lane.
Yeah, they started him in the pit lane. So, if he's really struggling to get the aero balance anywhere near what Max Verstappen is and can't handle a car in that position, that's one indication, you know. And how do you improve that week on week? It's pretty difficult. So maybe there are some traits there, but I can't believe that those traits wouldn't have been there before he got in that car, you know, when he did the few tests, whatever they did before. And when a driver loses confidence, especially somewhere like Suzuka, it's a big high-speed track.
Yeah.
You know, you can't go into Suzuka going, I'm going to drive at 80%, because you're going to get swallowed up. But it is a high-speed confidence track. And in previous years, Max at this track through the high-speed S's has been unbelievable compared to others. So if there's anywhere that you're lacking a bit of self-belief, this is not the place.
But again, Liam Lawson had to deal with, didn't he, a broken turbo in one of the practice sessions in Australia. He'd not driven either of those tracks, but yet he's driven here in Japanese Super Formula. Same can be said for Yuki Tsunoda, who's won a couple of times, and when he was in Japanese F4 at Suzuka, he's had to wait his turn longer than any of the 9 drivers that have been in both the Red Bull Junior team and the Red Bull Senior team. And what's that, 89 races or something like that, and 4 seasons. So he's going to be champing at the bit. And he said, I would like to believe that there is a podium in me for Suzuka. And so I think all we can do is go into this weekend saying, look, commiserations to Liam Lawson. Yeah. Let's hope he can rebuild his confidence at the Racing Bulls. But we are all gunning for Yuki to do really well at his home Grand Prix, because we really like him. And despite the fact that you hear him ranting occasionally over team radio, I just wonder how much of that is just the fact that the FOM directors know that he's box office and value over that. Where actually, when you meet him, he is such a nice guy. I did that feature in Singapore with him and Pierre Gasly, and he's just so polite. I mean, he's absolutely exactly what he's not like in the cockpit.
He's a different person in the car.
He's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So we wish him well.
Was that the Crest to Run feature?
That was that was not the real Crest to Run that
down to the Singaporean.
It was the Singaporean version of the Crest to Run.
Of course, you wouldn't, Simon, as Dr. Helmut Marko says, be one of the many know-it-alls project about this. But to one of the many know-it-alls, says Dr. Marko, why wasn't Tsunoda given preference from the beginning? This is because Yuki often had an up and down in his career. He did not exactly have the image of reliability and consistency. But now he's made a leap in development. One more thing before we move on, Simon. Can I tell you about the what Dr. Marko says about the competitiveness of the Red Bull? We are behind McLaren. It's difficult to drive, and at the tip of its performance, we're missing a couple of tenths. But, he says, when the car gets into a good window, particularly on the hard tyres in the last stint, well, the second stint in China, then Max can get a performance out of the car that they believe will end up reflecting quite well and potentially giving Max a good chance for the World Championship.
Okay.
And who would have thought that? I mean, I know he's second in the championship, isn't he? Max, still. Yeah. So Marko saying, but also the strategy of the Racing Bulls comes in for a panning from Dr. Marko.
Yeah, well, they've let them down, haven't they, on a couple of occasions?
In the strategy in both the two-stop in China and the we're not going to pit, it's not raining. In Australia. Yeah. So the joke I tried to make in China, but was cut off by somebody crashing, which was I don't know whether I should make it. Maybe it wasn't a great joke. Them two-stopping in China was like going onto the dance floor at a wedding and thinking that everybody's going to join you.
I did hear this joke.
starting to do your moves. Yeah, and then nobody joins you on the dance floor. And then you have to sort of retreat back. We've all been there, Simon. We've all been there.
But they were expecting people to cover.
They're expecting everybody to come in and join them on the dance floor with a two-stop. And they're like, yay, two-stop. And then nobody joined them in a two-stop. And they were like, lads, I thought we were all going to two-stop. Weren't we all? Weren't we all gonna, wasn't that agreed? Weren't we all going to two-stop? And everyone was like, nah. So, yeah.
I was wondering why no one joined me doing the worm at Sir Naona's wedding until I smashed my chassis through.
Yeah.
I should take a break. Well, we're going to. I'm just telling you that.
Yeah. Okay.
We're taking a break. Break time. Quick word on our show partner, Audi. The philosophy of Audi Sport isn't just about winning races. It's about pushing boundaries. Everything learnt on the track goes straight into Audi's road cars, making them just as thrilling as they are refined. Take the Audi RS range, serious performance, but with a level of sophistication and refinement that doesn't need to be loud to make a statement. It's that perfect blend of power and precision wrapped in quiet luxury. Whether it's their powerful style or the RS Sport suspension with Quattro all-wheel drive for razor-sharp handling, Audi is constantly redefining the future of performance. Book a test drive today to experience the Audi RS range for yourself. I was going to peel back the layer of the onion.
Yes.
The next layer is, of course, as we say and we said earlier, the capricious nature of the RB21 and the fact that, I've done a bit there, but this sort of the mid-quarter understeer it gets, then it snaps and only very narrow range, it wears its tyres. Do you think that they've made a rod for their own back, Red Bull, in that they've kind of designed this car around Max Verstappen, only he can drive it, and now they've gone a little bit too far. Even he has said that, and you look at the way he liked Guido van der Gaard's post on the fact that a lot of the drivers did. There's a sympathy for Liam Lawson because even Max knows how hard that car is to drive right now.
Yeah, and I think, we've all said how great Max is as a driver and totally rated him, but I think maybe we've underrated him. Maybe we've underrated how good he is and how much he's making that car, bringing that car's performance on. But yeah, Christian basically admitted in when he was speaking to us in China during an interview that they have naturally developed the car around the fastest driver over the previous few years. And that has led them in a very particular development direction. And because their second driver has been quite fluid for a lot of those years, then they've always focused on the Drivers' Championship, not on the Constructors' Championship. Which is interesting from the comments that Ted read out. In order to get the Constructors, they need to have two drivers. But they have got
regain the Constructors.
Regain.
They're really sore about losing the Constructors to McLaren, aren't they?
But, you can't...
And really want to regain it. And quite rightly.
You can't get the Constructors with one driver. Yeah. You can't. And that's what's gone wrong for them. Their buffer they had, the Red Bull of those days, where they could have one driver scoring lots of points and not worry about the second one, is gone. So they have got themselves into a development hole that they need to be able to pull out of. And at the moment, we don't see any signs of that happening. From the middle of last year, Max has been complaining that the car is not being good enough.
Is it like a driver who can adapt well to any car? Is it like when you sort of get in you drive whatever you drive, Ford Fiesta, you get into your mate's, VW Polo or whatever, and the brake's different and the throttle's different and the steering's different. Is it like a driver getting in there and driving it completely perfectly without thinking, oh, this is different, I don't like it? Or like a hire car?
Yeah, it's a bit like that. Like, it's just, like, for example, and that's one of those things that I think, whenever we said about Hamilton moving teams, for example, how hard that is, in your own car, you're used to where the indicator is. You don't think about it. Like, if I was to tell you where the indicator is in my car, I don't know. But if I get in another one, I know that it's not in the same place. Right. So those little things that tell you how light you can brake, how much on throttle, instant moving your foot without thinking about where it's going to.
Yeah.
All those little things build up. But in these cars, it's to do with how much grip you have through corner, how much you can lean on that car through corner and know exactly where the limit is. And Max, from our understanding, is very, very good at getting right up to that limit in a very nervous car. And if he goes over it, catching it and coming out okay, we've seen many instances where he makes it around the corner. But others, you either end up driving a little bit away from the limit because you're worried about having to catch it, or you miss and you spin off. Yeah. So by just driving back that little bit from them, every corner is slower. Every corner.
Are you surprised by the Verstappen camp and how silent they've been so far in the face of all this? You know, when a car is like this, and we saw it so much at times last year, the Verstappens, particularly Max, was very vocal about that he just didn't have the car underneath him, and the noise started ramping up. It was very loud from the Verstappen camp all last year for a variety of different reasons, but I don't know, at the moment it seems tumbleweedy. He's just saying a few things to Dutch media, but not much else to anybody else.
He's still second in the World Championship.
Yeah.
Their policy of having a clear number one driver might still work for him. Hasn't had... I would imagine he'll give it the first 5 races, wait till we get to Imola, and then maybe he'll say something. But there's no point, if he wants to say something constructive, there's no point throwing the team under the bus just yet.
All right, leads us on to a question then from Bresso. Do Red Bull sim drivers have the same troubles driving the simulator? If not, why not? And can a driver change his driving style to be more like Max and get results like Max? Well, on the evidence of the last 7 years, that's difficult because they'll all have been in the simulator, but then they have, a different set of simulator drivers as well working it all the time.
I think one thing the teams are coming up against now is they have dedicated sim drivers that will drive the simulator on a Friday night as you're in Suzuka. They'll be back there at the factory trying to tweak setup, whatever the case may be. Simulator's not always a perfect reflection of the world. So when we ran at McLaren, for example, it would give you setup direction, but not maybe the exact setup you needed. It's very hard to drive exactly like the real car because what we just described with getting right on the limit, the tyres are really hard to model. It's hard to model all of the thermal dynamic effects that are happening in a driver when the grip is going to exactly give. So that's quite difficult. Because it's how many races we do 24 races. It's hard to get a race driver into the simulator because it's hard to say to you, Simon, come in, have an extra few days in the office in between. It's hard to say to the race drivers.
It's very easy.
It's hard to say to the race drivers, come in, do a few days in the simulator. It's really good for our development work. And equally, it's hard to give the sim drivers track time in a proper car. So the correlation can go amiss. And I think when these drivers, an F1 driver is driving so far away from how most of us drive in terms of their capacity they're driving instinctively, not thinking about where they might brake or where they might turn. That just sort of happens for them. And I've had driver, when I was working with Jens come back and go, I've seen XYZ on the TV. It's like, how did you have time to watch the TV? But their driving is instinctive, and they're the best drivers. The amount of overhead they have, even when they're driving at that, is unbelievable. So then to say to them, it's a bit like saying, okay, you play football with your right foot. Okay, this match, left foot only, please. You can't just say, I want you to drive a much more nervous front-end car. So, there's no way you could do it. Even if you said to me, I want you to only open a ball with your left hand, not happening.
You can do it with both. I've seen you. Easy. Quick one, though. We must get into just the wider context as well, the other layer of this onion as we peel it back. And that is that it strikes me that since the death of Dietrich Mateschitz, right, back in 2022, that Red Bull, there has been a lot of infighting on many sort of levels. There's also, as you'd expect from championship or multi-championship winning teams, there have been other teams that have been after their key personnel to poach them. One of the things that Zach Brown has been very clear about saying is that to keep this McLaren team in place for the next few years is his number one priority, because he knows now they're constructors champions that they're going to be on the target list for all the others. So if we run through it, and Jonathan Wheatley leaving as sporting director, Adrian Newey, it was May of last year in Miami when he left, announced he was going to Aston Martin. You've got Will Courtney, who's gone across to McLaren, and perhaps most importantly, or as importantly, Rob Marshall, who left in 2023, I think, to go to McLaren as well. It's inevitable, and we talk about all empires kind of crumbling, but is this symptomatic, what's going on now, of the fact that Red Bull have had a period of sustained success, others have caught them up, and they need to now transition?
Yeah, I think what I think is very difficult for the team is, despite continuing to win the Drivers' Championship, the team basis, ethos of every team, which is very hard from the outside to understand, is constructors. That's how the team's ranked. That's how your bonus is paid. So that is the one that internally, for the people working on it, would be a focus. If there's been this infighting, and what you sometimes get is when someone at the top moves, you get this power struggle to reach the top, and then a blame sort of culture sets in. And we don't know at Red Bull, but as well, there's been other things like, I know that teams up and down the pit lane have been working hard to say, how do we manage personnel across 24 races? How do we make sure nobody's burnt out? How do we get the mechanics in a happy place where they're willing to do all the races, not miss some? What rotation do we need to do? So there's many, many layers to keep on the onion thing, to keeping a team together and happy. And that will start to do. As they start, you get so used to winning, and that sounds odd, but they will have got so used to that winning sensation. And now as they start to drift, the second, third, fourth places become disappointing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel as good from expectation side.
Two things. Let's see if they're really serious about winning the constructors, because swapping drivers after 2 races suggests that you're only after the drivers. And clearly, if they win the drivers this year, that would be a massive win, wouldn't it? Against Lando and Oscar in a much better McLaren, that would be the best, clearly the best of Max's, of what would be 5 in a row. So let's see whether they're serious about winning constructors. And secondly, let's see if Pierre Vacher is any good. This is his car.
It is.
Slower. It's slower than the McLaren at the moment. Adrian Newey hasn't really touched this car. Let's see. Can he fix it? Can they all fix it? And then we'll find out.
Fascinating to find out, isn't it? But then when you look at the man that was responsible largely for the genius behind the flexi wings, or the elasticity of the wings at McLaren, is Rob Marshall. He went across and has pioneered and been right on the edge with that, and Red Bull haven't had it, and maybe they're beginning to copy it for this year, or obviously it's all going to get stamped down on when we get to Spain. That's also a key thing to understand, is that you can't underestimate when you get a great designer like that that's moved across. You can see his influence at McLaren. You've seen it on the car.
And I think it's both. It's the lift of the team at McLaren and the new ideas and the influx of what others are doing. And we see that it comes out in protests against other teams and all these little bits of information. Every time that anyone moves from one team to another, a source of information goes. But it's also the vacuum that's left behind. And then the 2 or 3 that are in that position then jostling to be that top dog. And that often brings more disruption than just that person leaving on their own.
To be fair to Red Bull, it's not like Rob Marshall's the only person who knows how to lay out carbon fibre to make it bendy or not. And B, I don't think their current concept fits with the Flexi Wings advantage, which is why they've tried so hard successfully politically to get it changed for Spain and then get it beefed up for China, as was. And I don't think Crofty has got, I've now got the pictures, they've now come through, of the Red Bull.
Yes.
It's much darker than the Toro Rosso, and so I don't think Crofty is going to have, and I don't think us on TV are going to have a problem identifying it as differently, because it's a much darker red on the Red Bull
than it is on
the Toro Rosso, and it's got none of the green. It's all of the white, and it does look different. And the other thing about the Constructors' Championship, Simon, you look how many sponsors, good sponsors, are on the Red Bull. I'm not sure they need the money. I mean, they'd like to have the money. I
think Red Bull don't need the money.
No.
But I think the people's bonuses.
Oh, the bonuses, yeah, we forgot about that. Oliver Mintzlaff.
I'm all for the people. I'm all for the cleaner.
That is, of course. What's going on with Oliver Mintzlaff? So, collective decision, Christian Horner said, or Helmut Marko said. Yeah. Oliver Mintzlaff, the Red Bull executive who's in charge of racing, one of the 4 people with Mark Mateschitz, and the people who look after the fizzy drink side. Oliver Mintzlaff looks after the fun, which is the football and the motor racing, both teams. He was in China. I've never seen him attend the Chinese Grand Prix. Presumably, it's quite a long way for an executive to come for just a couple of days. Maybe he was there for the Dubai or the Milton Keynes
summit meeting
in the lounge. It's like, can you go away, please, in the lounge? We're having a Red Bull summit meeting here. Awkward if Liam Lawson. No, Liam was on your plane. But what does Oliver Mintzlaff think about all this? And is it about time that he's got his feet under the table since the passing, as you said, of Dietrich Mateschitz, to say, right, okay, Christian, okay, Helmut, I'm in charge of all this. I'm your boss. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
With Oliver Mintzlaff, the muscle packet.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's not a muscle packet, that's Yuki.
No, but it will be
We don't
fascinating.
know for sure either way.
Well, that's...
Yeah. No, I mean, it's going to be a fascinating weekend, isn't it? I mean, just hearing what Christian has to say about things and what the Red Bull camp say about their decision making, if indeed they're going to make any admissions on air about whether they've made a mistake or whatever. But we're not going to go told you so.
Are you going to be
I'm not
told
going to
you
go
so
told
much?
you so, of course not, because we don't know. We're one of those know-it-alls.
See how that, yes, to the Tsunoda know-it-alls.
Yeah, not me. As you do not scale the wrong side of Dr. Helmut Marko, not by any stretch.
Wait until the end of Sunday to say that you knew it all.
Always do that.
Because it's too early on
Run off tomorrow.
pre-Friday, it's too early.
Yeah, it is too early. Okay, 53 laps, 3.608 miles. It is the classic figure of eight circuit that is Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix, 39th running. Bernie, thank you for your usual notes. I'm looking forward to a spring weekend in Suzuka, whether it'll be spring-like or not from your weather forecast. It looked like sort of late teens. But what are we to expect from this Grand Prix? Not at stake, triple header, but let's get into the kind of vagaries of the Suzuka circuit and what it means and what it could mean for those at the front of the championship.
Suzuka, well, yeah, figure of eight. It's a big high-speed circuit. So it's a big performance circuit. That first S is the outstanding bit of the circuit. That is where I think laps or meter lost a lot through that. I think the big thing from the weather is the wind direction on that particular bit really affects car performance. So if you've got a headwind going through the S's, you're adding downforce to the car if you think of it like that. If you've got a tailwind, you're taking away downforce from the car. So a headwind is much, much easier to deal with through that section. So the days of our headwind, which I think are Friday and Sunday, is that the right way around? I can't remember. So that's a big one. Multiple stop race should be hardest three compounds, so different to the races we've had before. The driver change is going to totally mess up my spreadsheet for tracking what happens, which Red Bull do not consider in their driver moves.
No.
But every year so far, my spreadsheet has needed another row. But yeah, I think it's. I love Japan. I'm very jealous of not going to Japan.
Yeah.
How many times is Simon going to say cherry blossom season?
Cherry blossom.
Which is the pitfalls of.
I'm absolutely a sucker for cherry blossom.
We aren't we?
Love
Sakura
blossom.
We love it. For me, the big story of the weekend is Ferrari and a response from them to what was described in Italy as a disaster, I think, or a calamitous weekend of a double disqualification for different things.
First time ever.
So, when you think Lewis Hamilton, 9 points, Charles Leclerc, 8 points in the driver's standings, I'm looking to see what the Ferrari response will be.
Worst start, by the way, since 2010 of Ferrari.
Yeah. Hamilton, in a way, he's never really cared previously when his car's been disqualified, like in Mexico. It's like, I don't care, I did the hard work. So I think he'll be happy enough with the direction it's going in, especially after the sprint win in China. But, Ferrari have to get their horse back on the gallops because it was.
Do you think a little bit of that with Hamilton is he'd already built up so much of trust in that team that he knew it was a mistake or they'd get over it or recover from it, and this is different. This is a new team. It's a new so he's going to have to go, right, okay, how are we going to fix the issues we had last week? What are we doing?
Yes, and now that they can stop raising and lowering the car, and with the lowering of the car, I just wonder if there was someone in Ferrari when they lowered the car for the race in China thought that's going to be a bit tight. And I wonder if there was an "I told you so" moment at the end of the race, saying "I told you so."
How much of a debate was a pre-race?
So then, why was it only Hamilton's plank that was worn out, and not Leclerc's plank as well? And Leclerc's obviously was being underweight. So that's the big story for me.
Leclerc obviously run different setups.
They did, yes, they would have done. So is Hamilton just more confident with the car when it is skimming the floor, and will he be less so when they inevitably raise it up? Because 2 disqualifications for a race for a worn plank would be what's worse than disastrous and calamitous in Italian. And then the Piastri-Norris fight. The response from Lando Norris is a story in Suzuka that I want to see, Simon.
Yeah.
Is being, really it came from qualifying, didn't it?
Yeah.
Where Piastri got a great lap in the end, and that was the race won, not bearing in mind the no brakes at the end, which might have made it worse for Lando, as we discussed in last week's podcast. But will it seesaw? Will it now be Norris hitting back and winning this weekend.
So
rather than
Norris was a
Piastri.
lot stronger here last year. Was a lot stronger.
Dan Piastri?
Not here in
Suzuka.
the podcast studio.
Yeah.
In Suzuka.
Then-
Norris was stronger than Piastri.
Okay, yeah, so let's see if Piastri.
Piastri's birthday on race day, something to look forward to for the Australian.
How will he be?
He will be 24 years of age.
He's got one so good, isn't he?
But with regards to that and the dominance, actually, it shows you what a difference a year makes, because Max Verstappen on pole position by a record amount last year at Suzuka, almost 6/10. He won the race by 20 seconds. He shoved in the fastest lap. And now all of a sudden, he's not had any of those this year. He's not had a pole position. He's not had a win, and he's not had a fastest lap. So they've obviously got a huge amount of work to do. But it will be, because it's such a driver's track, I'm absolutely fascinated to see what Max can do.
There's a lot more high speed than the last
Yeah.
two we've had. There's a lot more high speed here. So there's still, I think, Verstappen will be closer.
He's not lost here since 2019,
He's
since
not.
prior to COVID. He's won the last three and got pole positions at the last three. So that augurs well for them. And maybe it is a track, who knows, that might just be more suited to that Red Bull than the first.
What about Mercedes?
What-
Has Kimi Antonelli driven a previous car around Suzuka?
No,
Right. Okay, well, let's see.
Very definitive answer.
I don't know. I mean, I've got 50-50 chance, isn't it?
All right, well, let's see. Is he done F2 around Suzuka? Good. Welcome to the informative podcast, everybody. So let's see how Kimi
looks
Antonelli
like
does round there.
It's like make it up.
Alex Albon, 6th in the Drivers' Championship, equal with Esteban Ocon. Have you seen the new cherry blossom? There you go. I've said it. That's 2 already for you. Livery of the Haas.
I like it.
Lovely,
I
doesn't it?
like it.
Oh, looks lovely.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
Looks,
Pink and beautiful.
Covered in cherry blossom.
Covered in cherry blossom.
It
Lovely.
didn't come out on April the 1st, so I assume that's not. And Williams have launched a weird line of merch going back to the FW14B, where they're wearing these yellow and blue jackets. There you go. There's Carlos Sainz. Very, very handsome there in the yellow and blue,
Oh,
Of course.
which will instantly be available
I like
in
that.
the Suzuka.
Do you like that? Do you know why I like that?
grandstands.
AFC Wimbledon colours.
And not the. I'm not particularly into the fashion, but I am into where Carlos Sainz goes this weekend.
Yeah.
Does he have a new chassis? Does he not? Was it the chassis? Was it not? Was it something else?
All right, well, there we go. That's just about it from us then. We've got to wrap up because we've got to get to the airport before the clock strikes 3 for you. What are you looking forward to Japan the most about that? Obviously, I love the raw fish, so I'll be looking forward to that.
Yes, always good. You can't eat badly in Japan. It's just not possible.
Unless you don't like raw fish.
That is true. In which case, that's your fault. It's great public transport system. I'm looking forward to getting to. I'm not flying into Osaka Kansai Airport.
I might not see you
Narita
till tomorrow.
So I've got to go from Narita into Shinagawa, and then I'll get the early bullet train Shinkansen. And then, you know where you're going to be, which is great. Fans are fantastic. We're doing a great opener with the making of some Japanese swords. We've got an interview with Oscar Piastri. We've got some features with Jacques Villeneuve. Jacques Villeneuve's our
Yes, Jacques Villeneuve is our guest. Yes, he's been fairly
97.
outspoken already, so looking forward
As
to
a man who almost lost the 1997 World Championship in Japan by ignoring a yellow flag, for which he got disqualified, and then set up the head-to-head with Schumacher in Jerez in 97.
Of course,
He's got his own memories of Suzuka, and he's going to do a feature with me on driving style, on that thing about getting into another car.
Yeah.
We're going to try and go into one of those very distinct boxy Nissans or Hondas that they only sell in Japan, and we're going to try and drive it around a car park in a very pointed way, and then see how quickly we can adapt to
Brilliant.
demonstrate and explain driving style.
ragging it around a car park.
Watch out.
That will be much after that. So you've got a night in Tokyo, then we have a couple of nights in Tokyo, which I shall look forward to.
On the way to
probably there.
Bahrain.
On the way to Bahrain, and we shall pick up there. But it's going to be a shame not to see you there, because it is fun. And despite my protestations about raw fish, I am actually quite into it.
Yeah,
My son is.
just hearing Ted talking about the trains, I love when you get on a Japanese train. First of all, it's always on time.
Yeah.
It's always really clean. And my favourite bit is when the inspector comes down through the train and they do the little bow when they get into the carriage, and they check everyone's tickets, do a little bow when they leave. And you can see the train driver, and they're all waving as they go past. I think the thing I'm going to miss the most is when you arrive at the track in Japan, the fans are all there with their double-handed wave. It's all like double-handed wave, and there's excitement is just unparalleled. It's just beautifully raw excitement.
Some of the get-ups.
That's the better going to.
As a train spotter, the waving of the driver is actually a physical check to the signal, as well as the aural, the listening check. And to see it, and then he looks, and they have a thing which is actually well known in psychology about if you physically check as well as actually knowing that, okay, have I shut the doors? Yes, I have. And if you point at it, then that's a safety thing. It makes sure that you've done it.
It's a wonder to behold.
However, when the entire Sky F1 team tried to get onto the bullet train once on the way from where we're going from Osaka up to Tokyo, and we delayed it because there's so many of us trying to get on.
Was the bags?
We delayed it by about with the bags. They were going to shut it. They were going to go, no, you have to wait for the next one. Hold on, we've got tickets for that. So you need to be very
found out. You should have found out and filtered, because you can walk through
things we show you off.
What I'm not going to miss is the pillows. I'm going to be at home in my own bed with my own pillows.
I've brought my own.
I'm going to get up nice and early to watch the race on Sky, obviously. But I'm going to have my own nice comfortable pillow.
But next week's podcast, Bernie, Gnomes is going to do it.
I've been cut. I've been cut.
Sorry about that.
Cut
So
from the podcast.
We'll see our figures drop like a stone.
Yeah.
The two fools.
And so Naomi is going to put her strategy driver's hat on.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, Ted. I'll see you in the car on the way to the airport in 1 minute. I will see you in a couple of weeks. Post-Saudi I don't know. Anyway, wherever. But it's a triple header. You'll be able to enjoy all the action this weekend on Sky Sports F1. Do join us, bright and breezy. And thanks to you all for listening. See you next time. Bye-bye.